Hello, everyone, and welcome back to This Day in History, our nightly look back at a specific day in history, where we take a look back at a specific day in history and examine the events of that day, the historical context in which the events took place, and the historical ramifications of the events. We also take a look at some people that were born on that day and some people that died on that day. As always, if you have not yet, please hit the subscribe button, the bell notification icon to be alerted anytime I post new content, and tell a friend. Without any further ado, this day in history, March the 5th. And on this day, in 1770, the Boston Massacre occurred. Snow had descended upon the city and icy temperatures gripped Boston. A mob of people that were opposed to the British Army's occupation of the city began throwing snowballs and rocks at the lone British sentinel guarding the custom house. He feared for his life and called for help, and a corporal and 7 British soldiers came to his aid. The soldiers drew their muskets and fixed the bayonets. The angry mob dared the soldiers to fire. Then, when Private Hugh Montgomery slipped and fell, discharging his musket into the taunting crowd, pandemonium broke loose. Moments later, other British soldiers began firing, and when the smoke had cleared, 5 colonists were dead or dying. The British soldiers were put on trial. John Adams and Josiah Quincy defended the soldiers. A jury later found 2 of the British soldiers guilty of manslaughter. They were branded on the thumb and released. The incident became known as the Boston Massacre. Should be noted that Adams defended these soldiers and would go on to be one of the leading revolutionaries. So, shows the depth of old John Adams. Some births that occurred on this day. Joel Olsteen was born in 1963 in Houston. He's been described as the most popular preacher on the planet. He is the senior pastor at Lakewood Church, a church that his father founded, and his sermons and services at Lakewood average around 52,000 people weekly. The services are now held in the former home of the Houston Rockets. It's held in a basketball arena. That's a huge venue. And it's got capacity for 16,800, and they hold many weekly services. Olsteen is a proponent of the prosperity gospel, which preaches that if you do well and obtain lots of money and worldly riches, it's God's will. And Olsteen should be a proponent of this gospel, because Olsteen has a reported net worth of between $40 and $60 million. And he lives in a home worth $10 million. So, yes, Mr. Olsteen is a very big proponent of the prosperity gospel, seeing how well it has paid off for him. Olsteen is a little different than some of your more popular preachers. He does not get into politics per se and social issues much. He has played around with them before, very on the edges, the fringes of the social and political issues, but he hasn't really dived in with gusto as some other pastors have. And some pastors really do criticize Olsteen for this. If you want to stir up a hornet's nest among evangelicals, just mention Joel Olsteen's name. You'll get a wide range of opinions on Mr. Olsteen. Of course, I'm not really sure about religion at all. Any of it. So, to me, it's all very, very fascinating. Some deaths that occurred on this day. Hugo Chávez died in 2013 at the age of 58 in Caracas, Venezuela. He was the dictator of Venezuela from 1999 until 2013. Chavez is one of the most controversial figures of a recent history in Latin America. Um, he when he came to power, he pushed through a lot of reforms that helped alleviate some of the inequality that occurred in Venezuela, and the nationalized a lot of the um, businesses in Venezuela, and including oil. Venezuela is one of the largest oil producing nations in the world. And around 2011, as the economic crisis around parts of the world was beginning to subside, it really took hold in Venezuela, and he declared an economic war on the wealthy, and as shortages began to appear, and it just led to a catastrophe that continues today. Chavez has been criticized for cracking down on political opponents and a free press. Really not a Pied Piper and champion of democracy. So Chavez, as I said, obviously was a socialist, and he was very fond of Fidel Castro. And in one of his speeches at the UN General Assembly, after President Bush spoke, he said he smelt sulfur, and obviously referring to Bush as a devil. He was a Catholic, and was a very practicing Catholic. Chavez was sort of a pariah on the world stage, and not seen favorably by many governments. So, Chavez died on this day in 2013. I will see you all tomorrow. Have a good night.